Yep. No, I'll let you do it then.
I didn't read it.
I figured that. That's why you'd ask me that question.
And short-term rentals. When you can't-
Where's the first time it came with my picture?
Good evening. Before tonight's scheduled Plan Commission meeting, we'll have a public hearing in front of the Plan Commission and the Town Board. The hearing is to solicit input on an ordinance to repeal and recreate Section 17.087B of the zoning code to allow the code enforcement officer to review and approve and deny sign permits without Plan Commission review. So at this point, we'll open up the public hearing for anyone who wishes to speak. No one wishes to speak? Okay. We'll close the public hearing, and we'll call the Planning Commission meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the minutes of the January 3rd meeting. Any comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 3rd.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 3A, communications, a letter from our attorney about a proposed vacation rental ordinance and modifications. Tim?
All right. So many years ago, the town went through a process to create a vacation rental ordinance. It was part of Chapter 17 at the time. And so that, we used that particular ordinance. It was very specific. It's the one that's currently in the code right now. And then back in 2017, the law changed. And so there's some changes that had to be made. And Attorney Larson had put together the letter that I think you all got that talked about the changes, and we actually went through a review of that, but it never got approved through the town board.
Okay.
So basically, we're back here to at least, it's really an informational piece. Just so you know, the Plan Commission did all the work to put together the original vacation rental, and then it was put into Chapter 9.14 for various reasons, but that means that the town board is the one that actually does the approval. It doesn't go to the county at all. It's not in Chapter 17 anymore. And so since the Plan Commission was involved in the original preparation of the document, I wanted the Plan Commission to actually see this. Basically, the only things that we could, the Plan Commission, the town can deal with is really related to three items, which is rentals. It only applies to rentals of 6 days or more. So short-term, weekend rentals, we cannot regulate, which in the past we did. Once the facility rents for the first time in, I guess, whatever the time period is, once they rent, like the first time they rent, they have 180 days where they can rent, and then they can't rent beyond that, 180 consecutive days. We have the ability to change that to any other number above 180 days, but we can't go below 180 days. So that's the minimum number of consecutive days that would be allowed, that the facility would be allowed to be rented. They don't have to rent consecutive days. That's the period that they are allowed, so they get 6 months. So let's just say someone starts renting their dwelling in May. They have 6 months from whatever whatever date in May starts, you get 6 months or 180 days to rent in. And then the third one is, the state law allows license to be issued by communities for rentals. We had that in place prior to this, and within that license, there's a number of conditions that are associated with it. Things like they have to make sure that they have a sign in, they have to have defined property boundaries so people know where they are at. There's a number of other things associated with that. And so that is in place in this new ordinance as well, so I can answer any questions, but basically, the Plan Commission is just for your information that this will be put into place, once the town board approves it, and it gets, I guess, I don't even know if we have to publish it, I think we just put it in place and put it in the code.
A question on the 6 days or fewer. The way it's written here, it looks like we can actually prohibit that, and that's what this ordinance does.
We cannot prohibit his ordinance, I think we cannot prohibit.
Says it's prohibited.
Where is it?
We can regulate more than 7
Right,
days, and less than 7 we can regulate or prohibit, and we've chosen to prohibit it.
my understanding is that we can only regulate anything over 7 days.
It says municipalities can enact and enforce ordinances that prohibit the rental of a residential dwelling for 6 days or less. That's,
In Eric's letter.
Yeah, it's 1A.
Yeah.
I had the same question.
So we're actually prohibiting short-term rentals, and then we're regulating 7-day to 180-day rentals.
It just, I mean, his first line in under A after the bold is, we can't enforce ordinances that prohibit the rental of a residential dwelling for 7 consecutive days or longer.
we can't prohibit
We
it if
can't
it's
prohibit,
longer.
we can't
prohibit it
if
7 or-
it's- if it's
7 days
7 or
or-
longer, we can't
We
prohibit.
can regulate
If it's
7 or
6.
longer, but 6 or shorter, we can prohibit.
They're not allowed to rent for 6 days. They have to rent for 7 or more.
7, right, that's,
Yeah.
right.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
They could rent for
Yeah.
less than that, though.
For not less than 7.
We can't regulate for less than 7.
It says we can regulate.
We can prohibit it.
We
Look
can-
at the last sentence under
Oh, okay.
1A of his.
Okay, then my misunderstanding on that.
Right here.
The ordinance only
Okay.
applies to 6 days, 7 days or more in terms of how it's regulated, but we're
Okay.
actually going to prohibit it for 6 days or less.
So that's that's what Eric is,
But I don't see where it says that in the ordinance.
And it's right here, the new section E on page 4 is the prohibition.
It's rental residential dwellings for 6 days or fewer is prohibited.
Yeah, so I think we've got, the ordinance is written the way Eric's letter is written.
okay.
Yeah.
I apologize, I misunderstood what the prohibition was. So we are prohibiting, based on number 5, we are prohibiting rental of a residential dwelling for 6 days or fewer.
Yeah,
Yeah, you have to rent for 7 days.
7 days.
Minimum, and a maximum of 180.
well, 7 to 30 days are considered short-term rentals that are then regulated. Because you could do a year lease and it wouldn't be covered by this law, like if you rented your house for a year. But more than 7 days, fewer than 30 days, and then you can only do like 6 30-day rentals within a year
So it's
period.
cumulative.
Yeah, it's the 180 consecutive day period is cumulative of less than 30-day rentals.
Right.
So if somebody rents it out for a week at a time, they can do, how many? 180 divided by 7 weeks.
But if they break for a week, they rent out for 5 weeks, then they have a week with no rental, and then they can rent out.
Up to, but within a 365-day period from the first day of rental, they can only rent it 180 days.
180 days total.
Yeah.
So no recommendation is necessary, but if you have comments, then the,
And this will go to the town board next week?
yeah.
Yes, it'd be on the agenda for next week's town meeting.
All right. Thank you. Item 4, unfinished business, none. Item 5A, Tim and Anna Trodier, N20 W29592 Glen Cove Road. Rate consideration and possible action on the approval of a certified survey map to combine 2 lots into 1 lot at N20W29592 Glen Cove Road.
All right, up on the screen, I have the location, which is on East Glen Cove Road. There's a lot of like Glen Cove roads. This is the one that's east, just north of the bike path there. This is the certified survey map that you had in your packets. I have done the review on the certified survey map. It basically combines two existing lots, not partial lots, but actually two existing lots in that subdivision into one. The intent is they're gonna remove the house and build a new house on there. There's a minor technical comment that the surveyor is aware of. I'm recommending approval of the CSM that's prepared by Land Tech Surveying dated October 10th, 2022, subject to satisfaction of any outstanding comments by the town, the city, and Waukesha County prior to execution by the town.
Any questions
Just
or
combining
discussion?
lots to make it more conforming and build a house on the lake.
I mean, I think they could probably build within some of the individual lots and still be conforming, but I think they want the two lots. They own both lots, and so they want to probably build a larger home on the two lots together. They've got to get rid of the line in order to build what they want to build.
But it's pretty basic of what we do every week.
Yep,
Or-
yep.
Motion to recommend to the town board approval of the CSM dated October 10th, 2022, subject to the satisfaction of all outstanding review comments from the town, CD Delafield extraterritorial plat review, and Waukesha County Department of Parks and Land Use prior to the town executing the document.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 5B, Town of
It'll
Delafield.
go next week, next Tuesday.
Thanks. Town of Delafield reconsideration and possible action on the adoption of an ordinance to repeal and recreate 17087B of the Town of Delafield zoning code to allow the code enforcement officer to review and approve or deny sign permits without plan commission review.
Pretty simple. Right now, the Plan Commission reviews all sign requests. The change in the laws have really limited our ability to really review these and require any changes other than for size, lighting, and location. So the proposed code basically shifts the responsibility to the staff for that. Many communities have done this, just because it's pretty straightforward. If anything does come up, there is an ability to have the code enforcement officer forward it to the Plan Commission for our review if so desired. So
There are
Eric,
times when we, like, give permission for a larger sign, like there's authority in the existing ordinance for us to, within certain parameters, allow a larger sign.
correct.
Will that authority still remain with the Plan Commission, or will that be with the court enforcement officer?
Yes. The
Okay.
code enforcement officer can only
Approve it
approve
up.
if it meets all the
All the
requirements.
Okay, and so if they need permission to exceed the code provisions, it's got to come before the Plan Commission?
Correct. Mhm.
Any comments or discussion?
Pretty straightforward, but it's signs, so.
But it's strict enforcement of the ordinance.
Yeah, no, it's
So,
Strict
It's
enforcement.
basically just issuing
as
the
long as it
permit.
meets the
Right.
ordinance, we can't deny it anyhow, or we shouldn't deny it.
Correct.
So, the town plan commission will only get the ones that do not meet the ordinance, or are an exception to the ordinance.
Right.
So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with it too.
Motion for recommendation to the town board?
Yeah, I make a motion that we refer to the town board, for recommendation to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 5C, Town of Delafield reconsideration and possible recommendation to the town board to adopt ordinance 202305, which would create Chapter 11 of the town code related to outdoor lighting.
Okay, we've talked about this a number of times throughout the years. I think it's been at least 3 years that we've talked about it. Or we're in the third year here, maybe. The conclusion that staff has made is that our intent is going to be to basically to codify this ordinance for, basically for commercial properties. As far as residential and agricultural lands to be regulated, our attorney has advised to just allow any complaints that come in to be basically handled by state nuisance laws. So, rather than, at one time, we talked about putting it into our nuisance code, and there's just some difficulties as to enforcement, as well as, you know, we'd have to take a lot of staff time to address a lot of the complaints as well. Whereas, the attorney has said that the state laws provide plenty of ability for them to take that to a different, a way to get it addressed. So I have some highlights. The other thing is, it's gonna be put in chapter 11, which is a new chapter in our code. And basically, that's a way so that we don't have to go through the county for any modifications of the code on that. Other communities have lighting in a separate code as well, so it's not unique. However, we wanted to at least do that so it's not in that chapter 17. So just a real quick run through. We have a pretty substantial purpose and intent for this. Once again, it's all based on commercial. We have definitions. The applicability is any projects in the B1, B2, and B3 zones. Those are business zones. M1 is industrial. P1 is park. And then there are certain conditional uses where this would come into play as well. We have a commercial or a business park resident or a business park plan unit development conditional use. So that would be part of what we might use, you know, need lighting for on that. We do have a requirement that existing businesses comply with the requirements by the end of this year. I kind of highlighted that because the Plan Commission could make a recommendation to change that if they so desire. One of the ways we are going to measure outdoor lighting is basically by lumen level, and it's basically 2.5 lumens per square foot of hard surface. So it's pretty simple calculation. We figure out, or they'll provide us the hard surface, parking lots, rooftops, sidewalks, anything like that in a commercial setting. And then it's just 2.5 lumens per square foot. To give you an idea of what that is, OAW is, I believe that they have, they're allowed, let's see if I have this, I don't, they are allowed 349,000 lumens based on 139,600 square feet, and they're at 336,750. So OAW is probably would probably be close to the max of what we would be looking at out there for lighting. Okay, Equitable Bank, they would be allowed about 80,800. They've got about 13,000. Now, this is based on what I could find in the files of the lighting plans that we had and the information that I had from those. Dayspring, I don't have that one. I've got kind of a partial lighting plan that didn't have all the information that I could really calculate what that is. The parking lot lighting portion of it was about 24,000 lumens. They're allowed 160,000. But we know that they have a lot of lighting on the building, underneath the building. I have no information on those as far as lumens for those, so I wasn't able to kind of tell what that total would be on that particular property.
Will they need to make a submission on that to meet the compliance by year end?
Correct. And that's what, from now on, you know, I'll know exactly what information to get when we're asking for information, and the lighting designers will provide that information so we can make that check. It's all gonna be based on, you know, their lighting and the number of lumens that are gonna be on the site. And so we're gonna base, you know, whether they are compliant or not on what is provided by the lighting experts when they submit their plans, when they come in. Other things, all the fixtures have to be cutoff fixtures, so all lights are down, none of this angled lighting. or lighting that shines all over the place. It's really got to be a cutoff fixture, so it's only going down from the 90 degree. Whereas our code requires a 25% reduction at night. The maximum height of the structures, the light structures is 20 feet. Now what that is gonna, it's pretty low, but it's gonna lead to probably more lights on the properties if it's commercial. Because they're gonna wanna, if they wanna light their parking lot, they're gonna have to have more lights. However, it's gonna be lower. Comparison, maybe a terrible example, but if you're on an interstate, you go to the zoo interchange, those lights are probably 75, 80 feet, 100 feet high, because they want to light so much more out there. But, so we don't want to have two lights that are 40 feet high that are lighting the parking lot and building. We want to keep them low, keep the light down on that. And so we might get some complaints about that because a lot of people like to be 25 feet. And once again, it costs more money for more lights, so,
And when you use a cut fixture, now it won't.
and that's exactly
increase
right.
cost of
Yeah.
construction.
But I've been trying to be consistent over the years of the types of lighting that I've requested without having a code. I basically have followed these things. The height has been kind of flexible, because a lot of people come in with 20-foot poles with like a 3-foot base. And so sometimes they're up at 23 or 25 feet, but
What's the height of the car dealership on 16?
I don't, that's been there a long time. I don't know, probably,
More than
they're
20
probably
feet,
30
yes.
feet, I would think.
Yeah.
Those are pretty
Those are tall.
high. And they're not necessarily cutoff fixtures. I wouldn't,
They'll have to comply.
But how are they gonna have to come into compliance?
they'll have to come into compliance. We'll have to see we'll have to decide what to do with the height, on that.
Is there authority to waive the height? For good cause?
I don't think we put that into it. I think my intent was more talking about new submittals coming in.
But I think with A now, you said that with 1A, 11.03(1)A, that it's existing people have to apply, or is it just existing projects that are currently in the works?
No, it's retroactive.
The intent was existing businesses would have to comply.
All retroactive.
Yeah. Well, and I guess if it's retroactive, then why, because I think initially at one point when we had discussed this, it was not retroactive, because C, D, and E under 11.03 sub 1 are talking about additions.
Yeah, CD and E were there when it wasn't retroactive.
And so if it is retroactive and it's just all existing, then would C, D, and E, I think, just are confusing.
Yeah, I agree. They're unnecessary with 1A. You don't need CD or E
And
anymore.
we'll just, that's a good catch. What do you think?
I would rather have it in, because then it's stated right in there that if you're gonna do an addition, that you're gonna have to, so everybody's gonna come into compliance. So let's say, OAW's coming into compliance and they wanna do an addition, then we know that you have to meet that additional,
That even for the
requirement.
addition you do, you got to do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't harm us.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I agree.
Well, but it talks, because C, it talks about additions of 25% or more of floor, and then E talks about 25% or less. But if all existing buildings have to come into compliance, then C and E aren't necessary,
I suppose we could just say that they,
because the entire
so you're
building-
saying if they do anything,
He has to comply.
with any, either the parking lot or the building, then they have to comply.
Yeah, either that or add to B additions, just the word additions, and then as one of your subparts, and then you could delete C and E. Because C and E were always a little funky, so. Because the one says it's for the
Okay.
entire property, the other says for the
just for
new
the,
outdoor
for the
addition.
new.
But if the entire property has to comply, then.
So you're
then-
saying add additions to B and then strike C and E?
Correct, because I think otherwise it's confusing, because E just implies that for the addition, it's.
I think you get rid of D, I think you get rid of T then too. So I would just, let's add additions to B to address Tim's concern that additions are covered by this, additions or modifications, and then take out C, D, and E.
Yeah,
So that would be one B.
Yeah, 1B would be expanded to cover additions and modifications, and then C, D, and E can come out, because they're all subsets of that.
yeah,
Okay.
unless D is specifically related to parking spaces.
Do we want to add an exception to compliance for the 20 feet for section 11.04 to C2? That's not required to come into compliance by December 31st? I see it hard to-
That's the height.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the height, but, and I guess the question, I think it would be good to have the ability to, particularly for those that are, would otherwise be grandfathered, because again, a car dealership that's been around for 40 years, all of a sudden we're saying your height, lights are too tall.
Right.
It's really
Well, that's-
expensive to fix.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very expensive.
Well, height and maybe cut off too.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, is do we just want, maybe put, I was thinking maybe 11031A, give us the authority to, with such waivers as permitted by the town planning commission or the town board.
You'll get inundated.
That way it's, well, but it's only for the bringing them into compliance. That's the other thing, right? You know, new buildings should all have 20-foot height, light post. So we're really saying for those that would otherwise, under most ordinances, be grandfathered, but here we're making it retroactive, we need some form of carve-out for it. And it could be under 11031A, or it could be just the height and cutoff aspects of the lighting.
You may want to be specific on what you're going to grant exceptions for, because.
Yeah, we don't
might
want to
get
do
a
it for the
lot of
lumens.
business.
Yeah, we don't want to do it for the lumens.
Right.
Or any of that stuff.
So it would just be the height and the cutoff?
I would say, yeah, height and cutoff.
Maybe, because that's really the fixture. I mean,
Yeah.
the light bulb they can control pretty easily at a relatively low cost, but
Yeah, just put low
the
bulbs.
fixture is harder to replace.
Where's the cutoff fixture requirement?
It's in there somewhere.
Oh, the cutoff fixture, it's in 11042.
Well, it also is under the definitions, fully shielded fixture or full cut-off fixture on page 2 of 8, right smack dab in the middle.
Page 2 of 8?
It's in the
That's That's
definitions.
the definition.
But I'm saying, but
so-
it also talks about cut-off, oh, okay, got it, cut-off fixture.
Yeah, 11.042.
Yeah. I mean, is everybody in agreement that we should make the current ones come into compliance?
Yes.
It's 90% of our commercial
Yes.
land has already been developed.
And
To
that's
not
a-
make this retroactive, it'd
That's a
be
big
almost,
part of the light pollution.
Do we have many that are going to be attached to a building and 16 feet in height from grade?
any two-story building with a light on the second floor is going to be above 16 feet.
Even if it's under the eave. The eave's over 16 feet. I mean, I'm in favor of adding the word addition to 1103B, and let Tim and Dean work on the wording. Eliminating C, D, and E is redundant.
Yep.
And putting in exceptions may be granted by the planning commission for height and cutoff, because you're not gonna make the car or the car dealership tear down those poles or go up the poles and put in cutoff fixtures. I don't think. I don't think that's a reasonable. But the lumens, I don't think we should give
Any hours of operation and stuff like that, yeah.
yeah.
So at the end of 1104, just add planning commission discretion to waive, to modify the type of fixture and the height.
For existing,
For existing, yeah.
and should we share this with the existing so when they know what we might pass next week, or?
Well, and I wonder whether, I mean, Tim, have you had any discussions with OAW or the church or
Nope.
the car dealership?
I mean, because, I mean, frankly, the pastor's been pretty present in all the lighting, and so oh, he's here.
He's
There
here.
he is.
You sure now?
Usually you're dressed differently.
No, all right. No, we're not soliciting input tonight, but,
I was just saying, I was concerned that you didn't know about it. Yeah.
You feel free to call Dan in the morning and discuss it with Dan.
because it'll be revised and then come before the town board
And
next
you can
week.
speak next week for 3 minutes in front of the whole town board, assuming it gets approved.
Yeah, Dan is just a good language person, yeah. The other, I guess, one word, I guess, that's a little confusing to me in 11.03 sub 1A, the word projects. First, it implies to me like a work in progress or something that's why I wasn't, when I first read this, I wasn't sure if it applied to existing, because an existing project means something that's incomplete to me. Like a project is, at least from when I read something, a project is, like, a project at home isn't something that's done, it's something that's
In process.
in process.
Well, we look at like the storage units on 18, they're not fully done with that project, but I think he's completing it in phases, so I would look at that as a project.
I would
So-
agree, but I'm saying,
But this is the retroactive piece. So
We could just say,
developments plural.
developments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make developments
Plural.
plural and strike projects.
Okay?
And, yeah, I think that's a good catch.
so can I just go back, just so I understand? So B, we're gonna include additions. And
Yep.
then, are we saying we're gonna remove C, D, and E?
Yep.
Okay. And then, I thought I heard exceptions for the height and type of fixture for existing facilities. You're thinking of putting that where?
I was thinking,
1104 something?
somewhere, well, 1104 is where both the type of fixture and the height are regulated. So if we added a sub 5 at the end that said,
Oh, it's sub
for,
5,
for,
okay.
for existing commercial businesses coming into compliance, they can seek a waiver of the type of fixture and the height requirement from the town planning commission. And the only question is, do we want to provide any
Guidance?
guidance on what, for good cause, or what's the term for,
Hardship?
hardship, yeah. It'd be a hardship claim, right? Here's our building,
They're all gonna come in with hardships if
Well,
if they're not meeting them,
Hardship's
so.
gonna be financial, and zoning doesn't really like financial
Right.
hardships. They like geographical hardships. And zoning board of appeals or, so. I think we have to address it because it's going to be a problem, so we might as well address it. And we're not gonna make them do it, so somehow we have to put it in, I think Kevin's correct. And just adding a section 5 in 11.04. And I'm sure you and Tim and Dan can work up the wording.
Would it be beneficial to just grandfather in pole heights? I mean, is there any situation where we would make somebody remove a pole and put in a 20-foot height pole? I mean, could we just have one grandfather for that specific thing, so that we don't have to deal with it at the plan commission level?
Do we know, other than the car dealership, do we know of any that's over 20 feet?
Church always does.
Is your,
I think.
I'll ask you a
I think
question,
I
'cause we
think
need
they
to-
all are.
are yours over 20 feet tall?
So the poles, like the metal pole is standard 20 feet. Every pole is on a base, because driveways are graded.
Yeah,
So your poles out here are at 25 to 26. Ours are probably 24. I mean, to be real, everyone's poles are high because of the concrete
Because they're on a
poles.
three.
The concrete base.
Yeah, they're on a
It's
three,
just the way-
they're on a 3 to 5 foot base.
Yeah, so they're all different.
Or could we just change it from 20 feet to 25 feet? And then
That'd be what I would do.
eliminate the whole issue?
If the town has lights that are higher than that, I think it would be, that would make sense. I guess those-
Well, you caught on fast.
You gonna seek hardship, Dan?
It's not in the budget.
Yeah, if ours, figure out what ours are and make us comply with the ordinance.
I'll get Tim a measuring tape, he can do it.
Yeah, I think the better solution might be to, I mean, you know,
Change it, yeah.
Well,
The
that's-
pole-
That's not the intent, is to make everyone switch
No, it's
their
not at all.
poles or to, you know, try and.
we don't want a new building going up with 50-foot poles.
Yes.
So I'd be fine taking the height restriction out of the retroactivity. That's one solution. The other solution would be to change the 20 feet to something that's reflective of what's already in existence here and
Yeah, I think we need to take an inventory of what's already existing and then
Yeah.
figure out if there's a median or an average or something that makes sense.
Well, and do we want, you know, with even the cutoff fixtures, I mean, just with my limited, dealing with lights, it's not just like unscrewing one and putting on another, it's a project on a 20-foot pole.
Oh,
So
it
even with
is.
those, I
It's
think,
expensive.
so it's, even with just the
So
poles
even-
and
yeah,
the
it's-
cutoff fixtures on
yeah.
existing, I don't think that's the intent, is to cause thousands of dollars or tens of thousands for businesses in
Yeah.
town.
I think it depends who you talk to, but yeah.
That's true.
Well, I
Neighbor, maybe not.
I think the fixture should still be something that they get granted from the plan commission, because that could be a lumen issue or something where they're way beyond the property line, and they are gonna have to address it,
Okay.
right.
so, but the.
So fixtures can come to the planning commission, height will be grandfathered.
But kept it to 20 feet for future development.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fine. That's fine.
Where do we wanna keep it at? Yeah, okay, that's fine.
We're saying 25 feet for,
We just grandfather height, so
but leave
leave the 20
anything new
feet
is
in
20
for
feet.
all new construction,
Okay.
new in addition.
And Tim and,
Can I just, not ask something, but just make a suggestion on that? So the parking lots, you know, all parking lots have a grade, right? They pitch, so the purpose is, or not the purpose, but the idea is that the top of the lights are all even, you know, cosmetically. So a standard pole is always 20 feet, but you don't want your poles looking like that through a parking lot, even like this. So that, I'm just throwing it out there, that's why you have the base, is to try to make the poles look nice. Look even. That's
Well, and it would also address the height issue variance between 20, 23, 25, if we said the light pole shall not exceed 20 feet. And if it's on a 3-foot base or a
Gotta have the
5-foot base.
base, because someone will put in a 5-foot base to get it up,
Yeah.
6-foot base.
They'll use it.
I mean, no, what you could do is make the base 2.5 feet, 30-inch base instead of a 36-inch base, or
Yeah.
you could reduce the base to
Right, lower
deal,
everything,
to
get
deal with,
everything lower.
to
Yeah.
deal with the height
For new,
difference.
okay, so for new buildings, we're just gonna say it's 20 feet, and if you gotta lower some bases to, well, but if the standard pole is
So-
20
so-
feet, there's always gonna be a base.
There's always gonna be a base.
Right.
Right,
has
so
to
is
be
the
a base.
height,
There has to be a
so is the
base.
height the base plus the pole, or
Yeah,
is it
that's-
just 20 feet total?
It's from the ground,
From the ground to the top.
top of the fixture.
So we gotta change 20
base
to
plus
25,
pole.
I think.
Well, yeah, if the standard size of a pole is 20 and they're all on a base.
No, they're all over the place. You can get a 16-foot pole, an 18-foot pole, a 12-foot pole. I mean, you can get them all over the place. Once again, a 12-foot pole, you're gonna have more light, more fixtures, more poles out there. But, once again, the light's lower to the ground. If you wanna keep it dark, you keep those lights lower.
so you're
Yep.
saying 20 feet pole and base, and people can just adjust their poles?
They could adjust their poles, or they can adjust the
Their
base
base.
if they
Well,
really
but
wanna
they
get
can't do
them.
a 20-foot.
Pole, but they could buy a 16-foot pole and put it
Right,
on a 4-foot
yes.
base.
Yeah.
So if it's a 2-foot base and an 18-foot pole with the fixture on it to the top, yeah.
And do you define kind of the, I guess, I don't want, pinnacle or whatever you wanna call it, of the fixture height?
Well, it says
From the
overall height
uppermost
of
extremity of any
Uppermost
light
extremity,
fixture,
Yeah. So it's the top of the fixture, you know, if it's a rectangular box fixture, it's the top of that.
which is generally where the pole is anyways, because it's sticking out and pointing down.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so we grandfather in existing structures to the 20-foot requirement, and we give Plan Commission the authority to waive the cutoff fixture requirement. But otherwise, we leave it as is.
I do have one question if we're done with the height portion of it, but we say related conditional use permit uses that also get pulled into this. Is that every conditional use permit or only those that are operating as,
It would be any conditional use that has a lighting, that would have a commercial sense to it. So we did a conditional use for, then we do it for the Haws,
Yeah,
I think,
Yes.
which was a conditional use for that. So that would be one that would fall into that category. It's in the A2 district, but it would fall into what I would call a development. It's
And
got a
what about-
parking lot.
yeah, what about the gentleman that was doing the winery?
I think that he would have to comply. I mean, there might be only one light to it.
Okay.
I mean, it's lighting a parking lot, small parking lot potentially. That's gonna be a little bit of a, you know,
Gray
it's a
area.
residential property that he's got a home is it a conditional use or a home occupation?
I want to say it was a conditional use that he came
Was it?
through for.
Okay,
because it was more than just a home business, because he was having open houses and,
that's right, he was
Yeah.
doing that,
Yeah.
yeah. But they were also gonna have people come to park at his place. So if he is going to have a light, then we should regulate that.
Mhm.
Okay.
We should. Just like we should the yacht club.
That's a good one too, yeah, yacht club.
And would horse boarding facilities fall into that then too?
Absolutely.
are they conditional uses? Isn't it pure agricultural?
I guess that's where some of the gray area comes in, just as we stated, and related conditional use permit uses.
Well, the big farm on Bryn Road, they've got a conditional use, don't they?
I don't
Like,
remember.
Gwen,
I don't,
Gwen, I can't pronounce it.
Gwen
Gwen Hills.
in Hill Farm.
Gwen Hill Farm.
I don't think so. I think
I don't
that's
think
all
so.
under ag.
That's all, I don't recall
They're-
them coming
They're an
through.
agricultural
What they
operation.
came through for were their signs.
Signs, okay, yeah, all right. Okay, yeah, again, it's not the intent to regulate ag unless,
Mm-mm, not at all.
and I'm
And we're not
sure-
regulating the monument signs of residential subdivisions?
No.
So are you clear on what modifications we're doing? Are we comfortable?
I think so.
Well, are we all clear on modifications we're doing if we're gonna make a recommendation to the town board?
I'll try to recite them.
Okay.
Actually, before you do that, I just want, 11.03 sub 1, sub B. Maybe my eyes are just tired, but I feel like either we're missing an and or we need some colons, because is it buildings and structures? Is that what, I was trying to figure out if institutional land uses, if institutional modified land uses, development projects, building structures, or if it's, I'm trying to figure out like what.
Well, wouldn't it end now and additions?
Yeah,
Well-
I was reading it and it seemed like, I didn't know if institutional was supposed to be institutional land uses, institutional development projects, institutional buildings. I was trying to figure out what was
It's-
meant. and
I think it's just, it was waiting for that and additions to be added. I
Yeah.
think it's as simple as that.
Well, but isn't it commercial, business, industrial, and institutional land uses, developments, projects, buildings, and structures? And modifications there too.
Yeah, build, and so would it be and structures? I didn't know if institutional was supposed to modify just land uses or also development. Like the word, so the lack of it was hard for me to read, that's all. Maybe it's just me, so. It's that "and" in the middle of the sentence. so-
Well, and it's the, because the first, we've got a commercial, business, industrial, and institutional. Those are the four things we're regulating, and we're regulating land uses, development projects, building structures, and modifications there too.
And I will take out projects and just put in developments
Yeah,
on that one too, to be consistent. So it'd be,
I'm just trying to figure out if we can put a comma or semicolon in somewhere that makes it understandable.
Yeah, no, and I guess I didn't, and I saw that there wasn't like an A, there
Change it
wasn't
to
the Oxford comma.
Sub-bullets.
I mean, is it really, is the land use is the land use, the word that's struggling me is land use. Because if we said,
We
all
could-
commercial, business, industrial, and institutional development projects, buildings, and structures,
okay, we can take land uses out. It's,
And the word "and," I guess. we-
it's a little bit of a catch-all there, the land uses, but I don't think
I
it's
don't know,
absolutely
because I don't know, is it just an
necessary.
industrial land use, or is it an institutional land use? Yeah, I don't,
Well, and I guess if we're, where I'm looking at it, like just at the end in the middle of the sentence, just,
It'd be cleaner if we just went to sub-bullets, so it'd be 1B
Yes.
sub 1, and list them each individually
I
with
think that that's,
semicolons.
yes, yes.
but what we're then regulating is commercial development projects, buildings, structures, and modifications, business development projects, buildings, structures, and
Well, couldn't you
modifications.
say all new development projects, buildings, and structures for semicolon, commercial business, couldn't you flip that and put it in the front and then do bullets?
All new development projects, buildings, structures, and modifications for commercial, business, industrial, and institutional
Something-
purposes.
I'm just saying, it just was, if we're even expecting anyone to push on this, I don't have problems, I just would rather have.
Just want it as
what
clean as
applies
it can
to
be.
Be clear. And is commercial, isn't that the same thing as business? Or is there a separate code that,
I guess I'm trying to be inclusive, so we don't get any of these, I'm a commercial operation, so we have a chiropractor, who's the one on 83? He does, the business on 83?
It's a vet.
yeah, there's a vet.
It's a
guy.
vet,
There's
so
a
is that,
vet guy.
I mean, he might get, I don't know if they call it a
I'd be
commercial.
more worried
or
about
is that
a business that runs, like a landscaping business, but they're not a business, they're just, that's where their trucks are and all their equipment are. They're gonna say, we're a commercial operation, we're not a business.
I mean, could you say
Yeah, I
all
mean, that's-
non-residential, or all non-residential and non-agriculture and everybody else? All land uses other than residential and agriculture?
But then we got conditional uses too. I mean, that we're starting to get,
Make it as clear as possible.
Yeah,
If
I-
you're a commercial business, or if you're a business, it doesn't matter if it's industrial, if it's institutional, those types of uses, whatever you want to call it, because you call it commercial, I call it business, whatever, at least it's included in here.
I think
Is
that
it possible that we can just add what we mean in the definition section of that? So to your point, Tim, I think that there is the clarification, right? If we go into a more nebulous description of it to say non-agricultural or non-residential, that probably provides a little bit of wiggle room that we didn't intend. And it may be an agreement that when we talk about commercial versus business, right? A commercial site would be anything that is non-residential in which you may not have patrons showing up to or customers, however you want to define that. If you're looking at business, right, that's typically, at least in sort of broad terms, it's where you have clients, customers that are coming in to do work with you, right? So your offices, your chiropractors, a commercial to that point, you may just have a storage area. But something that potentially with these definitions, since we are being so clear, and I get what you're saying, Tim, as far as like making sure that we haven't gotten anyone, we haven't left anyone out on, that we didn't intend to, could we just put those definitions of what those are in that section beforehand?
Well, we could define it, but we still have to make a, so we're, again, I think I guess I'm comfortable saying all new commercial businesses, commercial business, industrial, and institutional development projects, buildings, structures, and modifications thereto. It's, the first four words, which has an and in it, are the types of uses, and then the last half of the sentence is what it is we're regulating, development projects, buildings, and structures. But, I mean, there's,
I mean, the other option is just either like, Ron said, either just do bullets or just do semicolons. It's just that, I don't want someone to say industrial or institutional only modifies, or development is not its own separate thing in that it's only institutional developments. And it's only institutional buildings because those last three words could be read to only be modified by institutional.
So can we do all new developments, building structures and modifications for, and then a colon, and then just,
commercial,
Commercial
business,
business, yeah.
industrial, and
Commercial or
institutional, so
something,
flip
yeah.
the order.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what I have in a minute, so.
Okay,
So are we clear on that?
I think so. So in 1103-1A, we're gonna strike the word projects and make developments plural. In 1103-1B, we're gonna flip the order and have development projects, buildings, structures, and modifications for commercial, business, industrial, and institutional uses. We're gonna delete C, D, and E. And then we're gonna add an 1104 sub 5. Oh, we're gonna modify 1104 2C2 to exclude grandfathered buildings. And then we are going to add an 1104 sub 5 to give the Plan Commission the authority to waive the requirement for cutoff lighting, cutoff type fixtures.
And do you want to say like grandfathered buildings or properties?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, 1103-1A doesn't apply.
035A.
Well, 1104 C2 is just parking structures.
Right, but
Yeah.
it doesn't apply to any parking structure in existence today. So 1103-1A is the backward-looking requirement. And so we're saying 1103-1A doesn't apply in C2.
In C2, okay.
Do you want to just repeat that, what you just said, so?
So 1104 2C2 shall not exceed 20 feet, except this provision doesn't apply to existing parking structures governed by 11.03-1A, which is the requirement to bring them into compliance by December 31.
So in that case, the storage units that's being built on the south side, he has some lights up now, but he's adding more storage units. So the new lights, the old lights that he currently has can't exceed 20 feet in height, but any new lights would have to comply.
Well, except we've already approved the whole development.
And the lighting plan.
If he comes back to modify the conditional use, then I think we would apply the law,
Okay.
which he said he might do at some point.
Yeah.
But
We didn't approve a lighting plan for the car garages, did we?
not that I'm aware of.
We haven't approved the site plans.
No, I don't think we have that,
We don't
that
have-
detail in yet.
Can I just say one thing, because he got to say something? Thank you, first of all, for doing this. With your nighttime stuff, when you're diminishing it by 25%, if the intent is to keep things dark, why don't you do it more?
It's down to 25%, not by 20. It's not down by 25, it's down to 25%.
I think dusk to dawn is the issue. If these things that were fine, but then all of a sudden, whenever we start doing dusk
But there's
to dawn,
safety issues too, so we can't turn them off. So, but we got it down to 25%.
we can't turn them off. So they, okay.
No, which I think what he's saying is we're not gonna require people to turn off lights for security reasons. Not that you can't, it's, that we won't.
But they have to at least be
25.
Gotta reduce the power down.
Down
Down
to
to 25%.
25%.
So they gotta take 75% of the light off
Okay.
at dusk, at 10 o'clock. Okay.
So are the changes clear?
I think so. Kevin did.
So
a
the
good
code enforcement
form.
officer is gonna look at the lighting plan and make sure that what the lighting plan says gets installed?
Yeah, it'll be part of the review process. For new projects, the lighting plan will be required submission for any site plan, and you'll
Yep.
review it.
Yeah, I
for
do it
compliance.
now, we do
We
it now.
just don't have anything
But I
to
have
apply.
nothing to go on,
just-
so I make it up as I go. No, I've been trying to keep pretty much the same standards here. The pole height is the one that I get a little trouble with, and I never had a lumen level of how much light, we always dealt with light pollution outside the lot line, like it's gotta be,
Zero
0.2 foot candles at the lot line was kind of the target. So I could look at that but that's kind of where we're at.
Okay.
Actually, there was a lighting for that thing, but
Carter?
I made comments on that,
We
for the
did.
car thing.
Tim, I'm just picturing you at people's property lines.
At 10 o'clock at night.
Like
what?
with a
Little
little
loop.
sensor.
It's
not
in
too
there,
far
you gotta
from
be
the
3
truth.
feet above the ground.
No, I know, I'm just picturing it. And
You
was
could do it with your
making me
phone
go.
practically nowadays, so.
So
Okay.
we need a motion.
Motion to recommend for the town board, yeah?
Yeah. I'll make a motion that the planning commission recommends to the town board to adopt the lighting ordinance we just discussed with the modifications we discussed.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 6, discussion none. Item 7, we're changing the meetings.
Whatever you find, just call.
Yes.
So March 21, there was an election involved and
Yeah,
all
so
sorts.
March 7th, I won't be here. And then April's 4th is the election, so we thought
We'd
instead of
combine the
canceling
March.
April, combine, March and April.
So we'll combine the March and April meetings in mid-March 21st instead of doing them on the first Tuesday of each month. So you'll get April off. And you need me there on the,
Everybody make that day, or can we have to make sure we have a quorum? Third
well, I'm supposed to
Tuesday.
be in Kentucky, but I could probably change my trip day. But if I'm not needed here, no,
I'm not here.
on the 21st?
Mm-mm.
No, then I'll be here, okay. Just starting my trip to Kentucky, thanks.
I'm not here.
Is everybody else able to make the 21st?
Yes.
I'll be flying in by the seat of my pants, but yes.
Okay. Then we should have a quorum.
Well, it depends on how controversial the agenda is too.
We'll try and keep it light.
If it's real controversial, I'll go to
So
Kentucky.
we will not have a meeting in April?
No.
No.
Okay, cool.
Item 8,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.